Communications. Send a reply to Admiral Kim. Tell him the job is never finna the space around Theros Prime filled with massive ships as the Krex Imperial War Fleet arrived. Emperor Vorth himself commanded the largest vessel anyone had ever seen. The Blood Moon was 10 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets. Fleet Admiral Choi watched the enemy fleet through his view screen. 300 Krex warships had gathered to crush the human force. The aliens were confident they could overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Krex Emperor, Communications Officer Park Ji-woo reported. The main screen filled with the image of Emperor Vorth. He was even larger than the other Krex, with golden scales and scars that told the story of 1,000 hunts. His eyes glowed red with hatred and pride. I am Vorth, Emperor of all Krex, Master of the Hunt, Killer of 1,000,000 prey. The alien announced. You have interfered with my hunting preserve. For this crime you will die slowly. Ambassador Oh responded with calm dignity. I am Ambassador Oh Kyung-soo, representing humanity. Your hunting preserve includes innocent civilians. We cannot allow this to continue. Vorth laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You speak of civilians. They are prey animals. Prey exists only to be hunted. This is the natural order. The natural order is about to change, Oh replied quietly. You amuse me, little human. Your fleet is tiny compared to mine. But I will honor you with the ancient challenge. Send your strongest warrior to fight me in single combat. When I kill him, your people will surrender and become part of my collection. Admiral Choi stepped forward. I accept your challenge, Emperor, but not as you expect. What do you mean? You want single combat. I offer fleet combat. Your entire military against mine. Winner takes everything. Vorth's eyes widened with surprise and then delight. You would risk your entire species on one battle? Humans are even more foolish than I thought. Very well. When I crush your fleet, I will hunt your homeworld for sport. If you can find it, Choi said, and cut the transmission. Captain Yoon approached the Admiral. Sir, are you sure about this? We're outnumbered 7-1. Numbers don't win battles, Captain. Intelligence, training, and technology win battles. The Krex have quantity, we have quality. Commander Yu Hyori prepared her combined arms strategy. Human warfare had always relied on coordination between different types of forces. Ships, fighters, marines, and special weapons would work together as one deadly system. All units, this is Commander Yu. Execute battle plan Apex Predator. Show these aliens what real warriors look like. The battle began when Captain Kang Min-ho's dreadnought Baek-du fired the first shot. The massive railgun sent a tungsten slug, streaking toward the Krex flagship at 15% lightspeed. Emperor Vorth's ship tried to evade, but the Blood Moon was too large to move quickly. The slug punched through the alien vessel's armor like a bullet through paper. Impossible, Vorth roared. No weapon can penetrate my ship's defenses. That's because you've never fought anyone with real weapons, Admiral Choi replied. The Krex fleet charged toward the human ships in a massive wave. It was an impressive sight. Hundreds of enormous warships moving together like a storm of destruction. But the humans didn't run. Instead, they did something the Krex had never seen before. They scattered into small groups and began to move in complex patterns. Captain Lee So-young's fighters launched from the Hangyang in perfect formation. Squadron leader Han Woo-jin led 200 pilots in a coordinated attack on the Krex formation. Remember your training, Han told his pilots. Speed and precision beat size and power. The human fighters moved through the Krex fleet like wasps attacking elephants. They were too small and fast for the alien weapons to track effectively. Pilot An Chong-min dove his fighter between two Krex battleships. The aliens fired at him with weapons that could destroy cities. Every shot missed. Their targeting systems can't handle our speed, An reported. We're moving too fast for their computers to calculate firing solutions. Meanwhile, Colonel Park Sung-woo led Marine boarding parties against 6 different Krex ships simultaneously. His soldiers moved through space in armored pods, cutting through alien hulls like hot knives through butter. Major Song Ji-hoon's team breached the Krex battleship Deathbringer. The aliens inside were waiting for them, confident that their size and strength would overwhelm the tiny humans. The Marines entered the ship and immediately spread out, using their small size and superior mobility to avoid the Krek's warriors' clumsy attacks. Contact front, Sergeant Lee Hyojin reported. Multiple hostiles, Corridor 12. The Kreks charged like wild animals, roaring threats and swinging massive claws. They were terrifying to look at, but their attacks were poorly coordinated. The Marines fought like a machine designed for war. Every movement was precise. Every shot was aimed. Every tactical decision was calculated for maximum effect. Corporal Park Min-seo flanked a group of Krek's warriors while they focused on Major Song. Her rifle fired armor-piercing rounds that punched through alien hide like tissue paper. "Targets down," she reported. "Moving to next objective." Chief Engineer Nam Yoon-ji monitored the battle from her position aboard the Baekdu. The human ships were taking damage from Krek's weapons, but they kept fighting. Captain Kang, hull breach on Deck 7. Emergency teams responding. "How bad is it?" "Not serious, sir. The Krek's weapons are impressive but inefficient. They create a lot of light and noise but don't cause critical damage to properly armored ships." Dr. Jang Ki-byom treated wounded humans in the medical bay. He was surprised by how few casualties the fleet was taking. "The Krek's weapons are designed to terrorize their targets," he reported to Admiral Choi. "They're psychological weapons, not military weapons. Against properly trained soldiers, they're not very effective." The battle continued for 8 hours. Slowly, the human fleet began to dominate the battlefield. Krek's ships were destroyed or disabled one by one. Emperor Vorth watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by a force 1/7 its size. "This is impossible. We are the greatest predators in the galaxy." "You were the greatest predators," Admiral Choi corrected. "Now you've met better predators." The Krek's Emperor made one final desperate move. He ordered all remaining ships to ram the human fleet. If he couldn't win through skill, he would win through sacrifice. But the human ships were ready for this tactic too. Commander Yu had studied Krek's psychology and predicted this exact response. "All ships, execute maneuver Matador," Yu ordered. The human fleet scattered at the last moment, letting the charging Krek ships pass harmlessly between them. Then the humans turned and fired into the aliens' unprotected rear sections. The tactic was devastating. Within minutes, the surviving Krek ships were dead in space. Emperor Vorth's flagship was the last enemy vessel still fighting. The Blood Moon's weapons were powerful, but the human fleet surrounded it completely. "Surrender, Emperor," Admiral Choi offered. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your people are dead. End this." Vorth's reply was filled with rage and disbelief. "I am the master of the hunt. I cannot be defeated by prey animals." "We're not prey animals," Ambassador O explained patiently. "We're apex predators. We're what eats things like you." The final attack came from all directions at once. Captain Lee's fighters, Colonel Park's Marines, and the fleet's heavy weapons struck the Blood Moon simultaneously. The massive ship broke apart like a toy dropped by a giant child. Emperor Vorth's final transmission was cut off in mid-scream. Battle was over. The Krek's Imperial War fleet had been destroyed. The most powerful predator empire in galactic history had been crushed by a single human fleet. Fleet Marshal Talani's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral Choi, we're receiving surrender messages from Krek's commanders throughout the galaxy. They're abandoning their hunting preserves and fleeing toward their home territory." "Let them run," Choi said. "We'll deal with them later if necessary." Dr. Jang submitted his final battle report. "Admiral, human casualties were minimal. The Krek's weapons were designed to intimidate, not to kill efficiently. Against trained soldiers with proper equipment, they were surprisingly ineffective," Colonel Park reported from his boarding operations. "Sir, the Kreks are physically powerful but mentally weak. They've relied on fear tactics for so long that they never learned how to actually fight. When their intimidation failed, they had no backup strategy." Captain Lee analyzed the tactical situation. "Admiral, the Krek's fleet was impressive looking but poorly organized. They had no real command structure, no coordinated strategy, and no contingency plans. They were used to winning through shock and awe, not through military skill. Admiral. Choi looked at the wreckage floating in space around his fleet. The Kreks had ruled this galaxy through terror for thousands of years. Now their empire was broken, destroyed by a species they had never heard of. All ships, prepare for the next phase of operations, Choi ordered. We came here to protect the Villani. That job isn't finished until we're sure the Kreks can never threaten anyone again. The apex predators of Earth had proven their superiority. The galaxy was about to learn that there was a new dominant species among the stars. The battle began at the mining colony of Keth 7. Fleet Admiral Choi chose this location carefully. The Kreks had dozens of Villani prisoners there, using them for hunting practice. It was time to turn the hunters into the hunted. Captain Yoon Sang-min commanded the battleship Dokdo as it approached the Kreks' positions. The enemy had 15 ships guarding the colony. They were massive vessels that looked more like flying fortresses than warships. All weapons ready, Captain, reported Weapons Officer Kim Do-hyun. Fire when ready, Yoon ordered. The Dokdo's railgun batteries opened fire. Tungsten slugs accelerated to 10% the speed of light streaked toward the Kreks ships. The aliens had never seen weapons like this before. The first slug hit a Kreks cruiser amidships. The kinetic energy was enormous. The alien ship's armor, designed to stop energy weapons, offered no protection against solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The cruiser broke apart like glass. Direct hit, Kim reported. Target destroyed. The Kreks commander's voice filled the communication channels. What kind of weapons are those? Nothing can penetrate our armor. Those are human railguns, Ambassador O replied calmly. We learned long ago that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. 3 more Kreks ships moved to attack the Dokdo. Their energy weapons charged and fired. Brilliant beams of plasma streaked toward the human battleship. Captain Yoon smiled. Evasive maneuvers. The Dokdo moved like a dancer despite its massive size. Human ships were built to survive Earth's dangerous space environment. Asteroid fields, solar storms, and gravitational anomalies had taught human engineers to build vessels that could handle anything. The Kreks' plasma beams missed completely. The aliens were used to fighting enemies that couldn't dodge their attacks. Impossible, the Kreks commander roared. Your ship is too big to move like that. Size doesn't matter if you know how to use it, Yoon replied, and ordered another railgun volley. Meanwhile, Colonel Park Sung-woo prepared his Marines for their first boarding operation. Strike Team Alpha consisted of 20 soldiers in powered armor. Their target was a Kreks command vessel. Remember your training, Park told his Marines. These aliens are big and strong, but they're slow and stupid. Use your speed and intelligence. Major Song Ji-hoon led the boarding party. His Marines used breaching pods to cut through the Kreks ship's hull. The aliens had never designed their ships to repel boarders. They were always the ones doing the boarding. The Marines cut through the hull and entered the Kreks ship. The corridors were huge, designed for creatures much larger than humans, but that worked in the Marines' favor. Contact, Sergeant Lee Hyojin reported. Kreks warriors approaching from Corridor 7. The aliens were enormous. They stood 3 meters tall and weighed as much as small vehicles. Their claws could tear through steel. Their teeth could bite through bone. They looked like living nightmares. But they moved slowly. Their reaction times were poor. They relied on fear instead of skill. Major Song's Marines scattered through the corridor, using their small size to find cover. When the Kreks charged, the humans were ready. Human weapons fired armor-piercing rounds at velocities the Kreks had never encountered. The aliens' natural armor, effective against claws and energy weapons, offered little protection against high-velocity projectiles. They're going down, Corporal Park Min-seo reported. Their armor can't stop our bullets. The Kreks had relied on intimidation for so long that they had forgotten how to actually fight. They charged in straight lines, roared threats, and tried to overwhelm their enemies with brute force. The Marines fought like humans had always fought, with intelligence, teamwork, and superior technology. They used the ship's own structure against the aliens, turning corners and doorways into killing zones. Bridge secured, Major Song reported. The Krex command crew has surrendered. Back in space, Captain Lee So-young's carrier Hangang launched its full fighter complement. Squadron leader Han Woo-jin led 60 pilots against the Krex patrol fleet. The human fighters moved through space like schools of fish, coordinating their movements through advanced communication systems. The Krex had never seen such precise formation flying. Pilot An Chang-min dove his fighter toward the Krex flagship. The alien ship was enormous, but it was also slow and poorly defended. Its weapons couldn't track targets moving at human combat speeds. "I'm going for the command tower," An reported. "Copy that, Chang-min. We'll cover you." An's fighter screamed past the Krex ship's defensive weapons. The aliens fired everything they had, but their targeting computers couldn't keep up with human. Reflexes. An launched 2 missiles at point-blank range. The weapons were small compared to Krex armaments, but they were precise. They hit the flagship's command center exactly where they were aimed. The Krex flagship lost power and began to drift. Without their commander, the other Krex ships started to panic. "The flagship is down," Han reported. "All fighters, continue the attack." Chief Engineer Nam Yoonji monitored the battle from the dreadnought Baekdu. Her job was to keep the human ships fighting even when damaged. "Captain Kang, we're taking hits from Krex plasma weapons," she reported. "How bad is it?" Kang Minho asked. "Not bad at all, sir. The damage is mostly cosmetic. Their weapons are powerful but inefficient. Our armor is holding perfectly." The Krex weapons were designed to terrify enemies into surrender. They created impressive light shows and caused spectacular explosions. But they weren't actually very effective against properly designed military equipment. Human ships were built to survive the harsh environment of space. Solar radiation, cosmic rays, and micrometeorite impacts had taught human engineers to build vessels that could handle enormous punishment. Dr. Jang Ki-beom treated casualties in the medical bay. To his surprise, there were very few human injuries. "Most of our people are just shaken up," he reported to Admiral Choi. "The Krex weapons look scary, but they're not causing serious damage." "What about the aliens?" "The Krex casualties are severe. They're not used to being shot at. Their biology isn't designed to handle the kind of trauma our weapons cause." The battle at Keth 7 lasted only 4 hours. When it ended, the Krex fleet was destroyed or captured. The Villani prisoners were free. Fleet Marshal Talani contacted Admiral Choi from her refugee ship. "How is this possible? The Krex have terrorized this galaxy for centuries. You defeated them so easily." "They were bullies," Choi explained. "Bullies are only dangerous when their victims are afraid. Once someone fights back, bullies usually lose." Colonel Park reported from the captured Krex command ship. "Admiral, we've recovered the enemy's military database. They have detailed information about their fleet positions throughout Villani space. How many ships do they have?" "Hundreds, sir. But they're scattered across dozens of systems. They never expected to fight a real war. They're positioned for hunting, not for battle." Admiral Choi studied the tactical data. The Krex Empire was large but poorly organized. They had relied on fear for so long that they had forgotten how to actually fight. "Send a message to all Krex commanders in this sector," Choi ordered. "Tell them they have 24 hours to withdraw from Villani space. After that, we hunt them." Ambassador O composed the message carefully. "To all Krex forces, this is the Human Terran Federation. You are hereby ordered to cease all hostile actions against the Villani Commonwealth. Withdraw your forces immediately or face the consequences. You have been warned." The response came quickly. Krex commanders throughout the sector laughed at the human ultimatum. They could not believe that one small fleet could challenge their entire empire. "Let them come," one Krex general replied. "We will show these humans what real predators can do." Admiral Choi smiled when he heard the response. "They still don't understand. They think this is about size and strength. They don't realize this is about intelligence and technology." "Captain, Lee prepared her fighters for the next phase of operations." "Admiral, my pilots are asking permission to use their full combat capabilities. They want to show these aliens what human pilots can really do." "Permission granted, Captain." "Show them everything." The Krex had made a critical error. They had challenged humanity to a war of extermination. They thought they were fighting another prey species that would flee when faced with overwhelming force. Instead, they had awakened the apex predators of Earth, the children of a world where hurricanes, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions were considered normal weather, a species that had survived ice ages and asteroid impacts. The Krex Empire was about to learn that there are predators, and then there are apex predators. The difference was about to become very clear. The hunt had begun, but the roles had been reversed. The predators had become the prey. Fleet Admiral Choi Byung-ho stood on the bridge of the battleship Dokdo and watched Earth grow smaller in the view screen. Behind him, the largest battle fleet in human history prepared for war. 47 ships waited for his command to jump to hyperspace. Captain Yoon Sang-min approached from the navigation station. "Admiral, all ships report ready. The Hangang and Baekdu are in formation. Admiral Kim sends his wishes for a successful mission." Choi nodded. 3 months ago, he had been planning his retirement. Now he commanded humanity's first interstellar war fleet. The weight of responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders. "Captain Yoon, how are the crew holding up?" "Excited and scared, sir. This is what we trained for, but nobody expected to fight aliens in another galaxy." Choi understood. He felt the same way. Military training prepared soldiers for war against other humans. Fighting alien predators was completely different. The communication system announced a message from the carrier Hangang. Captain Lee So-young's face appeared on screen. The youngest fleet captain in human history looked calm and professional. "Admiral Choi, my pilots are ready. Squadron leader Han Woo-jin reports all fighters are armed and ready for reconnaissance missions." "Good, Captain." "Lee, how are your pilots handling the situation?" "They're calling it the ultimate test flight, sir. My people are ready to show these Krex what human pilots can do." Next came a message from Captain Kang Min-ho aboard the dreadnought Baekdu. The massive ship was humanity's strongest warship. Its weapons could destroy entire cities. "Admiral, all systems are green. Chief Engineer Nam Yoon-ji reports that our modifications are working perfectly. We can fight in space environments that would kill most alien ships." Choi smiled. Engineer, Nam had designed special systems for fighting in alien space. Human ships could now operate in radiation fields, magnetic storms, and gravitational anomalies that would disable other vessels. Colonel Park Sung-woo joined the group on the bridge. The Marine commander looked ready for battle. His soldiers had trained for months to fight in alien environments. "Admiral, my Marines are ready. We've studied what little data we have on Krex physiology. Our weapons and armor should be effective against them." "What do we know about their fighting ability?" Choi asked. "They're big and strong, but they rely on fear tactics. They're used to fighting prey that runs away. They've never fought predators that fight back." Dr. Jang Ki-beom entered from the medical bay. The fleet's chief medical officer carried a datapad filled with information about alien biology. "Admiral, I've been studying Villani physiology. They're very different from humans. Their bones are light like bird bones. They can't handle temperature changes. Their blood doesn't carry oxygen efficiently. They're not built for fighting." "What about the Krex?" Choi asked. "The opposite problem. They're big and powerful, but they're slow. Their reaction times are poor compared to humans. They're built for intimidation, not actual combat." Tactical Officer Bae Soo-jin approached with her analysis of Krex military capabilities. She had spent weeks studying every piece of data the Villani had provided. "Admiral, the Krex use quantity over quality. Their ships are large but poorly designed. They rely on fear to win battles. Their weapons are powerful but inaccurate. Their tactics are simple. Overwhelm the enemy with numbers and brutal force." "What are their weaknesses?" Choi asked. "They don't expect organized resistance. They don't use complex strategies. Most importantly, they've never fought an enemy that wasn't afraid of them." Choi thought about this information. The Krex sounded like bullies who had never met someone willing to fight back. That was about to change. Ambassador Oh Kyung-soo arrived from the diplomatic section. The veteran diplomat had studied alien cultures for decades. Now he would represent humanity to an entire galaxy. "Admiral, I've prepared first contact protocols. The Villani seem peaceful and honest. The Krex appear to be aggressive predators with no interest in diplomacy. We should prepare for the Villani to be our allies and the Krex to be permanent enemies." Translator Lim Jae-hoon joined the group. His job was to ensure humans and aliens could understand each other during the chaos of war. I've been practicing Volani language. It's musical and complex. They use emotion as part of their communication. The Krex language is simpler but more aggressive. They use threat and dominance in their speech patterns. Choi gathered all his officers around the strategic planning table. A holographic display showed their route to Volani space. The journey would take 3 months in hyperspace. Listen carefully, everyone. We're not just representing humanity. We're representing Earth itself. The Volani believe we're legendary warriors from a death world. Maybe that's true. Earth is dangerous compared to other planets. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, lightning storms. We live with disasters that would destroy other species. Captain Yoon spoke up. Sir, do you think we're really as tough as they believe? Let's think about it. Human children play in rain that would injure Volani adults. Human athletes run marathons in heat that would kill Krex warriors. Human soldiers fight in cold that would freeze most alien blood solid. Maybe we are different, Chief Engineer Nam added. Our technology reflects this too. Human machines are built to survive disasters. Other species might build more advanced equipment, but we build equipment that keeps working when everything goes wrong. Colonel Park nodded. My Marines train in environments that simulate alien worlds, poisonous atmospheres crushing gravity, extreme temperatures. What's impossible for other species is just another training exercise for us. Dr. Yang looked at his medical data. Humans heal faster than most species. We recover from injuries that would be permanent for others. Our immune systems fight off diseases that would be deadly to aliens. Biologically, we might actually be superior warriors. Choi felt pride growing in his chest. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters. They had turned a hostile planet into their home. Now they would take those survival skills to war against alien predators. Admiral, Tactical Officer Bay said, I've been analyzing our advantages. Human reflexes are faster than Krex reflexes. Human endurance is greater than Volani endurance. Human technology is more reliable than what either species uses. We might actually be the superior military force. Ambassador O looked thoughtful. The psychological factor could be decisive. The Krex are used to enemies that surrender when faced with superior force. Humans don't surrender. We fight harder when things get difficult. That could shock them. Choi made his decision. All officers return to your stations. Prepare your departments for combat operations. In 3 months, we'll arrive in Volani space. When we do, we're going to show the galaxy what happens when predators meet apex predators. As his officers left to prepare their crews, Choi remained on the bridge. Through the view screen, he could see the other ships of his fleet. Each vessel carried hundreds of humans ready to fight for strangers in a distant galaxy. Captain Yoon returned to his side. Admiral, the crew is asking questions. They want to know if we're really doing the right thing. Fighting in someone else's war, I mean. Choi thought about the question. Captain, the Volani called for help because they had nowhere else to turn. The Krex are hunting them like animals. If we don't help, an entire peaceful civilization will die. Isn't that exactly the kind of fight humanity should be willing to have? Yes, sir. I think it is. Then give the order. All ships jump to hyperspace. Time to show the galaxy what Earth's children can do. The fleet disappeared into hyperspace, beginning the journey that would change the galaxy forever. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, unaware that its children were about to become legends in the stars. Captain Lee Dong-soo walked through the quiet halls of the space station Sejong. The deep space monitoring station floated far from Earth, watching for signals from distant stars. For 3 years, Lee had commanded this outpost. Most days were boring. The crew monitored radio waves and checked equipment. Nothing exciting ever happened. Lee entered the communications center. Officer Park Ji-woo sat at his desk, headphones on. The young man looked tired. He had been working the night shift for weeks. Anything new, Ji-woo? Lee asked. Park shook his head. Just the usual background noise from pulsars and... He stopped. His eyes grew wide. Wait, Captain, you need to hear this. Park's fingers moved quickly over his controls. A strange sound filled the room. It was not like any signal they had heard before. The sound was musical, but sad. It rose and fell like someone crying. When did this start? Lee asked. 5 minutes ago. It's coming from the Andromeda spiral. The signal is very strong for something so far away. Park looked worried. Captain, I think this is artificial. Someone is trying to talk. To us. Lee felt his heart beat faster. First contact with aliens had always been possible, but after decades of silence, most people stopped believing it would happen. Can you decode it? Lee asked. Park nodded. I'm running it through the translation programs now. The computer is looking for patterns. He paused. Captain, there's something else. The signal is repeating the same message over and over. Lee watched as lines of data moved across the screen. Slowly, words began to appear. The computer was finding patterns and turning them into language. Help us, the message said. Please help us. We are dying. The hunters are coming. They kill everything. We heard stories of the Deathworld people, the ones who cannot be killed. Please help us. We offer everything we have. Please come. Lee stared at the screen. Deathworld people. What does that mean? Park worked at his computer. More text appeared. They call themselves the Villani Commonwealth. They say the Krex Empire is hunting them. The Krex treat other species like animals to be hunted. The Villani are running out of places to hide. The message continued. We know of Earth. The legends speak of a world so dangerous that its children became like gods of war. Water falls from the sky. The air burns with electricity. The ground shakes and mountains explode. Yet humans live there and grow strong. Please, warriors of the Death Planet, save us. Lee read the message again. Earth as a death world? He had never thought of his home planet that way. But compared to what these aliens described, maybe Earth was dangerous. Hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, and storms were normal for humans. Maybe other species could not survive such things. Jiwoo, record everything. Send this to Terra Command. Immediately. Use Priority 1 encryption. Park's hands shook as he prepared the transmission. Captain, do you think it's real? I don't know. But if it is, we need to tell Admiral Kim right away. The next day, Lee stood in the communication room waiting for Admiral Kim Tae-ho's response. When it came, the Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. Kim looked older than Lee remembered. Command of Humanity's Space Forces had aged him quickly. Captain, Lee, I've read your report. This could be a trick. How do we know these Villani are real? How do we know this isn't some enemy trying to lure our ships away from Earth? Lee understood the Admiral's worry. Humanity had many enemies on Earth. Wars still happened between nations. Trust did not come easily. Sir, I recommend we send this to Dr. Shin Hye-jin. She's our best expert on alien communication. If anyone can tell if this is real, she can. Admiral Kim nodded. Already done. I'm waiting for her report now. 2 hours later, Dr. Shin's report arrived. Lee read it quickly. The scientist had studied every part of the alien message. She checked the language patterns, the mathematics, and the science described in their plea for help. The message is genuine, Dr. Shin wrote. The aliens describe physics and mathematics that match our understanding of the universe. Their language shows natural evolution over thousands of years. This is not something humans could fake. The Villani are real, and they are truly afraid. Admiral Kim called another meeting. This time, more officers joined the conversation. Lee recognized General Park from the Marine Corps and Dr. Jang from the Medical Division. If we help these aliens, we will be committing to war, Admiral Kim said. We don't know how strong these Krex are. We don't know how many ships they have. We could be sending our people to die. General Park spoke up. Admiral, the message mentions our reputation. These aliens think humans are legendary warriors. Maybe they know something we don't know about ourselves. Dr. Jang added, the medical data they sent shows that Villani are very fragile. Their bones break easily. They cannot handle temperature changes. They need special food to survive. If the Krex are hunting them, it's not a fair fight. Lee thought about the message. The Villani had called humans Deathworld people. They believed humans were nearly impossible to kill. Was that true? Lee remembered his training. Human soldiers could fight in deserts that reached 60 degrees Celsius. They could work in Arctic cold that froze water solid. They could climb mountains where the air was so thin that machines stopped working. They could swim in oceans during storms that destroyed ships. Maybe the aliens were right, maybe humans were unusually tough. Admiral, Lee said, the Villani offered us their entire technology database. Think about what we could learn. New medicines, new energy sources, new ways to travel between stars. This could change everything for humanity. Admiral Kim was quiet for a long time. Lee could see him thinking. The decision would affect all of humanity. Captain Lee, have Officer Park send a response to the Villani. Tell them we received their message. Tell them humanity is coming to help. Lee felt excitement and fear at the same time. What should I tell them about our capabilities? Admiral Kim smiled for the first time during the meeting. Tell them that humans have never lost a war against predators. Tell them that Earth's children are coming, and the hunt is about to become very different. As Lee left the meeting, he thought about what was coming. Humanity would soon travel to another galaxy to fight aliens they had never seen. The Villani believed humans were legends. Soon they would find out if that was true. Officer Park was still at his station when Lee returned. The young man looked nervous. Captain, should I tell them about our weapons, our ships? Lee thought for a moment. No, Jiwoo, let them be surprised. But send this message. The children of Earth have heard your call. We are coming. Hold on just a little longer. The hunters are about to meet the hunted. Park typed the message and sent it toward the Andromeda spiral. Somewhere in the darkness, between galaxies, the signal traveled toward desperate aliens who had called for help from a species they knew only through legends. Lee looked out at the stars and wondered what they would find when they arrived. Would humans really be as strong as the aliens believed? Would their technology be enough to fight an entire empire? One thing was certain. For the first time in human history, Earth's children would fight not for themselves, but to protect others. They would learn what it meant to be the defenders instead of the survivors. The message was sent. Soon the human armada would begin its journey to war. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Theros system. Fleet Admiral Choi Byung-ho stared at the view screen in shock. The system was full of wreckage and fleeing ships. Report, Choi ordered. Tactical Officer Bae Soo-jin worked quickly at her station. Admiral, I count 12 Krex hunter-killer fleets patrolling the outer planets. They're herding Villani refugee ships toward the inner system. It looks like they're turning the evacuation into some kind of hunting game. Captain Yoon Sang-min pointed at the tactical display. Sir, those Villani ships are barely armed. The Krex are just playing with them. Through the communication system, they could hear panicked Villani voices calling for help. Translator Lim Jae-hoon worked to convert their language into something humans could understand. They're begging for mercy, Lim said. The Krex are telling them to run faster. They're enjoying the chase. Choi felt anger building inside him. This was not war. This was cruelty. Communications, contact the Villani command ship. Tell them the human fleet has arrived. The main screen filled with the image of a Villani officer. Fleet Marshal Talani looked like a deer that could walk on two legs. Her large eyes showed fear and exhaustion. When she saw the humans, she stepped backward in terror. Ambassador Oh Kyung-soo spoke gently. Fleet Marshal Talani, we received your call for help. We are here to assist your people. Talani's voice was musical but filled with panic. You are the Deathworlders. The legend spoke truly? You came? We came, Oh confirmed. Tell us about the situation. Talani's hand shook as she spoke. The Krex arrived 6 months ago. They said they were turning our territory into a hunting preserve. They don't want to conquer us quickly. They want to hunt us slowly, system by system. They said it's more fun that way. Dr. Jang Kibeom studied the Villani officer through the screen. Her species was clearly not built for war. She was thin and graceful, with delicate bones and soft features. Her people were artists and philosophers, not warriors. How many of your people have escaped? Oh asked. Maybe half. The others? Talani could not finish the sentence. The Krex keep trophies. They take body parts from their kills. They display them on their ships to frighten us. Colonel Park Sung-woo listened to the conversation with growing anger. His Marines were trained to protect civilians. This was exactly the kind of enemy they had prepared to fight. Fleet Marshal, Oh said, we need tactical information. What can you tell us about Krek's military capabilities? Talani sent data files to the human fleet. They have massive ships but poor technology. They rely on size and fear. Their weapons are powerful but slow. They don't use complex strategies because they don't need them. Most species surrender when they see the Krek's fleet. Captain Lee So-young studied the data from her carrier. Admiral, their ships are 3 times larger than ours, but they're slower and less maneuverable. My pilots can outfly them easily. Squadron leader Han Woo-jin added his analysis. Sir, I've been watching their patrol patterns. They're sloppy. They don't expect resistance. They're not even trying to hide their positions. Chief Engineer Nam Yoonji reported from the Baekdu. Admiral, their technology is actually inferior to ours in most ways. They compensate with brute force. Their weapons are like hammers, powerful but crude. Choi made his decision. Fleet Marshal Talani, gather your refugee ships near the 4th planet. We'll establish a defensive perimeter. It's time to show these Kreks that the hunting season is over. Talani looked confused. You want to fight them? But they have hundreds of ships, you only have dozens. Quality over quantity, Choi said. Trust us. The human fleet moved into formation. Captain Yoon positioned the Dokdo at the center. Captain, Lee deployed fighters from the Hangang. Captain Kang moved the Baekdu into position for long-range bombardment. The Kreks noticed the human ships immediately, their communication channels filled with curious chatter. Translator Lim listened to their conversations. They're asking each other what kind of ships we are, Lim reported. They've never seen human technology before. They think we might be some new kind of prey species. One Krek's commander sent a message to the human fleet. The alien appeared on screen, a massive creature with sharp teeth and claws. His skin was dark red and covered with scars. He looked like a nightmare version of a dragon. Unknown ships, the Krek's commander said. You are in Krek's hunting territory. Leave now or become part of our collection. Ambassador Oh responded calmly. This is Ambassador Oh Kyung-soo representing the Human Terran Federation. You're attacking peaceful civilians. Withdraw immediately. The Krek's commander laughed. It was a horrible sound like metal scraping against stone. Humans? Never heard of you. Are you another herbivore species? You look weak. Your ships are small. This will be fun. We are not herbivores, Oh said quietly. We are omnivores. We eat both plants and meat. We are predators, just like you. The Krek's commander stopped laughing. Predators? Impossible. There are no other predator species in this galaxy except us. You're about to meet your first, Oh said, and cut the communication. Captain Lee launched her reconnaissance fighters. Squadron leader Han led 12 pilots toward the Krek's fleet. Their mission was to gather intelligence and test Krek's response times. The fighters moved at speeds that shocked the Kreks. Human pilots could handle acceleration that would kill most aliens. They could make turns that would destroy other spacecraft. The Kreks are trying to lock weapons on our fighters, Han reported. Their targeting systems are too slow, they can't track us. One Krek ship fired at Han's fighter. The weapon was powerful but moved in a straight line. Han avoided it easily. Their weapons are like throwing rocks, Han laughed. Big rocks, but still just rocks. Dr. Jang studied the medical data streaming from the reconnaissance mission. Admiral, I'm reading Krek's biological data from our sensors. Their reaction times are much slower than human reaction times. They're physically strong but mentally slow. Tactical Officer Bay analyzed the Krek's fleet formation. Sir, they're not using any real tactical formations. They just group their ships together and rely on intimidation. They have no idea how to fight a real battle. Colonel Park prepared his Marines for boarding operations. Admiral, give me permission to take one of their smaller ships. I want to see how tough these Kreks really are. Not yet, Colonel. First, we test their fleet capabilities. The Krek's commander sent another message. This time, he looked angry instead of amused. Your little ships are fast, but they cannot hurt us. Watch as we destroy one of your vessels. 5 Krex ships moved toward the human fighter squadron, their weapons charged with energy that made space around them glow. All fighters, evasive, maneuvers, Captain Lee ordered. The Krex fired massive energy beams. The weapons were powerful enough to destroy a city, but they moved too slowly. Human fighters danced between the beams like dancers avoiding raindrops. Is that the best you can do? Squadron Leader Han taunted over the communication channel. The Krex commander roared in frustration. Impossible. Nothing can avoid our weapons. You've been hunting prey too long, Ambassador O said. You've forgotten how to fight real predators. Fleet Admiral Choi watched the test with satisfaction. The Krex were exactly what he had expected. Powerful bullies who had never faced organized resistance. All ships, prepare for full combat operations, Choi ordered. It's time to show these hunters what happens when they meet better hunters. The Villani watched from their refugee ships in amazement. For the first time in months, they had hope. The legendary Deathworlders had arrived, and they were everything the stories claimed. The Krex Empire was about to learn that they were no longer the apex predators of the galaxy. That title now belonged to the children of Earth. 3 months after the destruction of the Krex Imperial War Fleet, the galaxy was a different place. News of humanity's victory had spread to every corner of known space. Species that had lived in terror for generations suddenly dared to hope. Ambassador Oh Kyung-soo sat in his new office on Theros Prime, reading reports from across the galaxy. His desk was covered with messages from alien species requesting human protection. Admiral Choi, Oh called to his friend, we're receiving 50 new requests for help every day. The Zalons are being attacked by the Hex Swarm. The Quilani need protection from the Void Raiders. The Telmorians are asking for help against something called the Soul Eaters. Fleet Admiral Choi looked tired, but satisfied. The past months had been busy establishing humanity's presence in the galaxy. How many species have joined the Terran Protectorate so far? 147, with more applications arriving daily. They're offering us technology, resources, and basing rights in exchange for protection. Dr. Shin Hee-jin entered, the office carrying a thick data pad. The xenobiologist had been studying galactic civilization since their arrival. Ambassador, I've completed my analysis of galactic power structures. The results are fascinating. What did you find? For the past 1,000 years, this galaxy has been dominated by predator species. The Krex were just the largest. There were dozens of smaller empires that used fear and violence to control peaceful species. With the Krex gone, the others are starting to collapse too. Admiral Choi was interested. What do you mean? They all used the same strategy as the Krex, intimidation and overwhelming force, but they never learned how to fight real wars against organized opposition. When word spread about our victory, their subjects started rebelling. Several predator empires have already fallen. Captain Lee So-young arrived with Squadron Leader Han Woo-jin to report on patrol operations. Lee had been promoted to Admiral after the battle and now commanded the 2nd Expeditionary Fleet. Admiral Choi, we've established patrol routes covering 12 sectors. My pilots report that most predator species are avoiding any system with human ships. Just seeing our fighters is enough to make them retreat. Han added his own observations. Sir, we're not even having to fight most of the time. These species have heard the stories about what happened to the Krex. They don't want to test whether the stories are true. Colonel Park Sung-woo entered with a different kind of report. His Marines had been training alien species in basic self-defense. Admiral, the training programs are going better than expected. The Villani have formed their first military unit. They're not warriors like humans, but they can defend themselves now. How are they handling combat training? Choi asked. They're not natural fighters, but they're intelligent and determined. We've taught them to use technology to overcome their physical limitations. Powered armor, automated weapons, defensive tactics. They'll never be assault troops, but they can hold their ground. Captain Yoon Sang-min brought news from the Dokdo. Admiral, we've received a message from Terra Command. Admiral Kim wants to know when you're coming home. Choi smiled. Tell Admiral Kim that I'll return to Earth when the job is finished. Right now, there's still work to do. Dr. Jang Kibyom submitted his medical report. Admiral, I've been studying the biological differences between predator and prey species in this galaxy. The results explain why humans are so effective here. Go on, Doctor. Most galactic species evolved on worlds with stable climates and few natural disasters. They never developed the physical and mental toughness that Earth species have. Even the predator species like the Kreks were adapted for hunting, not for actual warfare. Chief Engineer Nam Yunji added her technical analysis. Admiral, I've been examining captured alien technology. It's more advanced than ours in some ways, but it's also more fragile. They build for efficiency, not durability. Our equipment keeps working even when damaged. Translator Lim Jae-hoon brought linguistic news. Admiral, I've been monitoring communication across the galaxy. Humans are already entering the languages of dozens of species. Words like Deathworlder and apex predator are becoming common terms. Fleet Marshal Talani arrived for the weekly briefing on Villani recovery efforts. The deer-like alien looked much healthier than when they had first met. Admiral Choi, my people want to thank you again. Our population has grown by 30% since you arrived. For the first time in decades, we're building new colonies instead of evacuating old ones. What about other species in your sector? O asked. They're following our example. The Meridian Council has reformed. The Crystal Empire is rebuilding. 6 species have declared independence from their former predator masters. The galaxy is becoming peaceful for the first time in centuries. Admiral Choi gathered his staff around the strategic planning table. A holographic map showed human operations across the galaxy. Look at what we've accomplished, Choi said. 50 patrol fleets protecting 200 systems, training programs for defensive forces, diplomatic relations with over 100 species. All of this started with one distress call. Commander, Yu Hyo-ri provided the military situation report. Admiral, predator activity has dropped by 90% in sectors with human presence. The remaining predator species are either fleeing toward the galactic rim or requesting peace negotiations. What about the Kreks' homeworld? Still heavily defended, but they've withdrawn all their hunting fleets. Intelligence suggests they're having internal power struggles. Their entire society was based on conquest and hunting. Without that, they don't know how to function. Tactical Officer Bae Soo-jin brought different news. Admiral, we're receiving reports of new threats from outside the galaxy. Something called the Devourer fleet is approaching from the galactic void. Early reports suggest they're even more dangerous than the Kreks. Admiral Choi considered this information. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less. The good news is that every species in the galaxy wants to help us fight them. They've seen what humans can do and they want to be on our side. Ambassador O looked pleased. Admiral, this is exactly what we hoped for. We're not just protecting individual species anymore. We're building a true galactic alliance. Captain Kang Min-ho contacted them from the Baekdu. Admiral Terra Command is sending reinforcements. 20 new fleets are being assembled. Admiral Kim says the Earth government is fully committed to our mission here. Dr. Shin submitted her final report on galactic civilization. Admiral, I recommend we formalize the Terran Protectorate as a permanent institution. The galaxy needs a defender species, and humans are clearly suited for that role. What makes you say that? Look at the evidence. Humans are the only species that evolved as both predator and prey. We had to fight natural disasters, climate changes, and dangerous wildlife just to survive. This made us adaptable and tough. Other species specialized for specific environments. We learned to handle anything. Admiral Choi made his decision. Ambassador O, draft the charter for the Galactic Defense Initiative. Any peaceful species can join. Members contribute what they can and receive protection in return. Humans will provide military leadership and training. What about aggressive species that want to reform? Case-by-case basis. If they're willing to give up predation and join galactic civilization, we'll consider their applications. 6 months later, Admiral Choi stood on the observation deck of the new space station orbiting Theros Prime. The Galactic Defense Initiative, Headquarters was the largest structure ever built by cooperative alien efforts. Through the viewports, he could see ships from dozens of species working together: Villani science vessels, human patrol cruisers, Meridian supply ships, and Crystal Empire mining vessels all shared the same space peacefully. Captain Lee approached with the latest patrol reports. "Admiral, the Devourer fleet arrived yesterday. They took one look at our combined forces and decided to go around our galaxy instead of through it. Apparently, they prefer easier targets." "How many ships do we have now?" 2,000 vessels from 40 species. Not all of them are warships, but they're all part of the defense network. The predator species are choosing negotiation over conflict. Word has spread that humans don't lose wars. Dr. Shin published her book, Deathworld Species and the Galactic Ecosystem, to great acclaim across the galaxy. Her conclusion had become accepted wisdom. Humans were the apex predators that preyed on other predators, maintaining balance in the galactic community. Ambassador O established the diplomatic corps, training representatives from peaceful species to handle negotiations with potentially hostile aliens. "The goal is to solve conflicts without fighting," he explained, "but everyone needs to know that humans will back up our diplomats if necessary." Colonel Park's Marine Corps had grown to include members from 12 species. "We're not trying to make them into humans," he explained. "We're teaching them to use their unique abilities in coordinated military operations. A diverse team is stronger than any single species." Fleet Admiral Choi received his final communication from Terra Command. Admiral Kim's message was brief. "The job is done. Come home when you're ready." But Choi looked out at the busy space station, at the ships of dozens of species working together, at the galaxy that was learning to live in peace, and made his decision.